Congressman Ron Paul is running for president. He made that announcement on Good Morning America this morning. He'll do it again on the steps of Exeter Town Hall in about an hour and 10 minutes from right now. You're also labeled as the godfather of the Tea Party. How do you think the Tea Party is going now with all of these factions?
Well, I think there's a little bit of being in flux with the Tea Party, but I think it's alive and well, and they accomplished a lot of positive things. In the last election, we have a lot of new people. But, boy, it's tough because voting against this spending always has the other half of the people who are on the receiving end, and they sort of bear down on the members and say, hey, you're cutting my benefits. At the same time, they were sent there to do this cutting. But I think things are a little bit better, but we're not on the verge of really cutting anything. So I think we're going to have a lot more problems before we buckle down, and more problems to me is inflation and a very difficult time getting jobs back here. I work on the assumption, because the statistics support me, that we've been in a steady slump for the past 10 years since the year 2000. Our standard of living is going down. Our good jobs are leaving. Revenues, because the jobs are going away, have gone down. At the same time, there's an automatic increase in expenditures, for unemployment benefits and, of course, medical costs and all these. So we're in a situation where we'll end up with a breakdown of the system because we don't have the wealth and we don't have the productivity, and that means having the possibility of runaway inflation, which would be disastrous for us. That's what we have to head off.
And Congressman Paul, how do you put people back to work, and should the government even be in the business of making jobs?
Indirectly, they should be. They can't create jobs. They've never created a job other than a bureaucratic job, which distracts from productivity and interferes with productivity. So we have to change our attitude. We have to believe in the free marketplace. Now, what's the role of the government? A sound currency, enforce contracts, protect property rights, and have a sensible policy in this way. But to say that the government has to precisely create a job here or there, that was part of what prolonged the Depression, that they had to create jobs that didn't produce. You have to have low taxes and less regulations. You have to make the environment better so they're not encouraged to go overseas as they are. And there are some states that are better than others. For instance, Texas this year ended up with 4 new congressmen because we have businesses moving down there, and there's still problems because we have a national government to deal with, but we don't have an income tax or a corporate tax, and it's a right-to-work state. So the environment is good. So there are jobs in my own district right now. Caterpillar is building a brand new plant and hiring hundreds of people. But it's quite different than the problems faced in the Midwest. I mean, you take the states like Michigan and Ohio and other places, they're really hurting. But the government has responsibility. But the responsibility is creating environment and allowing people to use their ingenuity to go and have the energy to create jobs and create products.
Congressman Ron Paul running for president. He first was elected to Congress back in 1976. A number of people have come up against him, both Republicans and Democrats, in his congressional district, which runs along the Texas Gulf Coast from just east of Corpus Christi up to Galveston, Texas, and no one's been able to unseat him in over 30 years. And he does appeal to a lot of independents. And my question, do you think you're going to get more traction this time around, the third time, Congressman, because traditional Republicans have kind of wandered away from the party and may come back as independents in the 2012 election?
Yeah, in the numbers, the polling shows that my appeal is across the board. Many Republicans and a lot of independents, and even some of the Democrats who don't like our foreign policy, who had voted for Obama to start bringing our troops home. So it's across the board. But that doesn't answer the question, how do you win a Republican primary? And it is a challenge because the Republican Party has strayed from their beliefs. So what I'm saying isn't brand new for Republicans. There was a position, which we used to call the old right, that were less interventionist overseas, and even like George Bush running on his program of a humble foreign policy. So these ideas aren't strange, and certainly my fiscal conservatism shouldn't be strange to Republicans. It's just that they haven't followed those views. So I think it's it's open for grabs. That we can reconvince Republicans that they should stick to their guns and believe in limited government. And so therefore, I'm more optimistic than ever.
Congressman Paul is at the Grafton County Republican dinner tonight, but we have some folks who want to speak to you right now. A quick question from Brian. Brian, turn your radio down there in the background. Brian's on from Grafton with Congressman Ron Paul. Go ahead, Brian.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. It's a pleasure to speak to you. You've been speaking truth to power for 30 years, and it's really starting to hit here on the streets. My wages are down 20%. I'm working 6 days a week, and that extra day a week is for food and gas increases. I'm sick of the wars. I'm sick of the drug war. I'm sick of paying for it all. I think in New Hampshire we have a closed primary, so before the switchover date, when you can switch from Democrat to Republican, mail a mailer to all the Democrats with your anti-war stance and anti-drug war stance and urge them to vote in the Republican primary. Because if you survive the Republican primary, you will be the next president of the United States.
There, I think you've got his vote. By profession, he called you Dr. Paul. You're an obstetrician, and you've delivered many babies. Have you met those people now as adults? Do they vote for you?
I hope so. I think they do. And somebody kidded me that, we have a large family. We have 5 children, and they said that, to go into politics, it's not a bad idea to have a lot of children and a lot of grandchildren, at the same time deliver a lot of babies, and it's a good base to start with. A lot of good feeling from that group.
Congressman Ron Paul will make another announcement on the steps of Exeter Town Hall in about an hour. He is running for president and running for the Republican nomination in 2012. The featured speaker at the Grafton County Republican dinner tonight. Congressman Ron Paul, thank you for your time on WNTK.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.